Okay, I'd like to go over the week 10 classwork for the face-to-face students and week 11 for the online students. So this is going to be like a little mini Excel project. So in your grades in Blackboard, I'm guessing you've noticed that there is a percentage and letter grade. This is how your grade is calculated based on the individual items. You can use either one of these and you click on grading criteria and you see this huge list of items, and right after the before week 1, click, hold, drag all the way to the end to where after the parentheses and 5% on the final, right click, copy. Okay, so now we're done with Blackboard. What we've done is taken all the items that constitute your grade, copied them into the memory of the computer, and now I'm going to open up Excel. I already have it open. Right, I'm going to do a new spreadsheet. Maximize my screen here. Just going to do a blank spreadsheet. Okay, so what I'm going to do to start is I'm just going to paste that. So I can either right click and just do a regular paste here, which is fine, or I like to use the keyboard shortcuts Control V. Now what I want to show you is that it looks like this information, and you can kind of see by looking at it what it is. Week 1 classwork percentage, week 2 who's in the house, so on. And it may look like it's spread across, but it's not. And let me show you. See, up here is the information. Here's the actual row and column. So if I click on B, nothing's in there. Everything's in A. So one of the first things I want to do is separate everything into a column. And here's how I do that. I go to Data. I go to Text to Columns. And this is great stuff to know how to do. I use this feature all the time, so I hope you find it helpful. So delineated. So what this is asking is, how do you want me to break up the information? And if it was fixed, like it was every so many characters, I could do that. But in this case, it's delineated by the comma. So then I hit next, and then I tell it, no, for every place you see a comma, make a column. Okay, so every place you see a comma, make a column. And I could go to next, but I'm just going to hit finished. So now we have that nice, every one of them is in a different column, but now I actually want them listed in one row. So what I do is I transpose these. So that I do this, I'm going to click here on 1, and notice when you click on 1, it selects the entire row. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to hit copy. And these little, what I call dancing ants, say I've selected all that and I've copied it. So now I'm going to go down into A2, and when I right click, I get a couple of paste options. And one of these options is transpose, and that's what you're looking for. So let me show you what this does. Okay, so what it did is it took all of those listed in the columns and it placed it in A2, starting in A2 all the way down. Okay, this is a really cool thing to know how to do. I use it again a lot. This particular classwork, I believe, really does give you skills that you'll use later on, as does most of the Excel stuff. Okay, so now that we've done that, we have this entire row up here that we're going to use to have headings for our different items. So for now, I'm just going to do this, and there's a couple ways I could do this. I could either right click and I could say clear contents. That'd be one way, and it just clears everything out. If for some reason you don't see that or that doesn't work, I'm going to do Control Z. The other way you can do it is you can just delete that, and then you can do insert, right? And again, what I'm doing is right clicking on 1 and I can just insert. So either way, I think the first one's quicker. Okay, so we'll come back in a minute and do these. What I want to do now, notice everything here is in each individual cell. So I'm going to select all of A. So I click A, the column, and it selects everything. And now I'm going to use that nice feature I used before, text to columns, but now I'm going to do a little something different. I am going to delineate, but every time I see an open parentheses, because I want this percentage on the next column, I'm going to hit next. And in this case, I'm going to say open parentheses. So you can see down here the preview of what it's going to do. Okay, so I'm going to hit finished. So now look what happened. It took, but now we have a different issue, which is we have that close parentheses. So but before I do that, I want to show you to right click between A and B. And when you right click between them, it spreads it to the whatever the maximum length of whatever the item, like this is probably the longest item, right? Okay, so there's a couple ways to get rid of this. All right, so now that we have this, here's all the items that make up your grade, here's the percentage, but they're actually not percentage yet. So I'm going to click here. Okay, I'm going to go to home, and again I've clicked the entire row. I'm going to hit find and replace. So find and replace is awesome because you can say find, and in this case you can see I've done it before. I'm going to say find the in parentheses and replace it with nothing. Now also watch what happens to the way this is aligned, and I'm going to hit replace all, and it shows me 58 of them were replaced. So if you noticed, it was on before I did this, it was on the left, and as soon as I took it off, it's on the right. And the reason is, and notice that this is true over here, says this is text, okay, alphanumeric text. This is actually numeric, or numbers. Cool. So now what we're going to do is this will be your grade. So actually let's start doing some labels. So we'll call this item. We'll call this item weight. This is going to be your grade. This one, and we'll go through and show you how to calculate these things. This one will be your grade weight. I'll show you that in a minute. And then we'll have running total. Okay, so notice how it's hard to read each of these, right? So one thing I like to do is I actually like to select them, and I come up to this formatting, and it does this angle counterclock, and it's a really nice way to look at things. That way you can keep your columns small to reflect what the information is inside. Okay, so the other thing I like to do here is I like to bold them, makes them a little better. Okay. So now your grade. So this is where you're going to go into your grades. Okay, now this is just a student account. Actually, I'm in student preview. You will have percentages for all of these things. I think it helps a little bit here to either look at them as all or graded. That might be the way they're organized. The way this spreadsheet I have organized here is actually by the way they're due in the course. Okay, so what you're going to end up doing is hitting percent, putting in whatever your grade, and it's expressed as a percentage. Now one thing I've noticed, and this happens to students, is they hit, like, let's say I got 80%. And they hit 80, and you can just hit percent. That is a way to do it. It works fine. But why work harder than you have to? I'm going to do undo. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this entire, I'm clicking, holding, and dragging all the way through to C59. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit percentage. Now, nothing looks like it happened, right? And then I'm going to increase my decimals by 2, and I hit it twice. Now this is not totally critical that you do it twice, but I now want to show you if I hit 85, I don't have to hit the dot for the decimal. I don't have to, although it puts it in automatically, so if I want to put in like 85.5, it totally understands how to format that the way I want it. Okay, so now it's the other thing is these other two are going to be expressed as a percentage as well. So let's go ahead and do them, but now let's actually use this wonderful painter tool, format painter tool. I'm going to click on it, and actually it shows you, now that I've clicked on it once, my painter tool, click, hold, and drag, and I can do it all the way through these two columns. Okay, now again, it doesn't look like anything happened, does it? But it did, and you'll see it in a second. So if you find your numbers aren't coming out, it's probably because you haven't formatted them as a percentage. So now we're going to do a grade weight. So think about it this way. This item had 1.18 as a weight of its item. You got 85.5%. So what weight did you, what grade or what weight did you get? So here you just simply, and here, let me start slower. Equals tells it a formula. I hit, or you can type C2 and then times, which is shift 8, and I'm going to use the keyboard again, and I'm going to go over to B2. Okay, Now look what that percentage did, interestingly enough. It actually gave me, oh, my decimals went higher, so I could actually decrease it. I have to figure out why, but it's not a big deal. Okay, what happens is as you decrease, this is worth noting, your decimals, what happens is it rounds, okay? And it must have been because of the multiplication that there was more decimals to be displayed, so it did, I'm guessing. Okay, so now this formula now is going to be used all the way down. So this is a really nice thing, and you learn this in my IT lab, but if you put your cursor right at the bottom where you see that little square, your larger plus turns into a smaller plus. You click, hold, and drag, and what that does is it copies all the way to the end, copies that formula all the way down. Okay, and because we don't have a grade in here yet, it's 0 because there's nothing to multiply it by. Okay, so now I'm going to do the running total. In order to give you the percentage that's expressed in Blackboard, we have to determine a running total by taking the weight you have by the weight that was available. So all we're doing here is if there's a grade I want to total, we have to do a function that includes a formula that includes also a function. Okay, so you'll learn about those things in my IT lab, but basically I need to grab the percentage, the item's weight if there's a grade, so that I can then compare it against the grade weight that you got against what was available to give you a running total. Now let's just actually do the formula. We're going to say if, and if is asking a question, if, and then we're going to open the parentheses, and now we're actually going to do a test, and the test is going to be is blank. And now it's asking us if what's blank, and we're going to say open parentheses if C2, okay, is blank. So now in this case it's not, but in some cases it will be. And then we do comma. What's going to happen if that's true? If there is a blank in there, then I don't want a percent, I don't want anything in this running total, because that means you haven't been graded for that and it won't be calculated into your running total. Now in this case it's false because it is actually not, it's false because it is not blank. Okay, so in this case we wanted to equal that percentage, which is B2. Okay, let's hit return. So now it shows us what we were looking for, because in this case there was a grade in this item. We wanted to capture what that percentage was so that we could do a running total, and you'll see that at the end. Again, and that is equals if is blank C2. If your grade is blank, then I want this running total to be blank. Now let's actually see this in operation now, because again, we're going to take this, click, drag all the way down, making sure you're not doing a, let me show you how you can make sure, right? The way you can make sure now is that you can see that these ones after are 0, which would make sense, okay? So now here's what happens. You go now that you've done this part, okay? You go through now and you're going to enter your grades. So as an example, let's say on this item I actually got 0, I didn't complete it. Well, notice what happens is that because it is that 0 is included in your running total, you have to have that 2 to calculate a running total. So let's say, and the item was worth 2, but you got no percentage. Your grade weight was nothing because you didn't do it. Let's say you get 100. That means you get the entire, your grade weight is equal to the running total. That's 100%. You got all the possible weight for that item. Okay, so it's important to go through and put zeros where you have zeros, and you only have to do this up until the point that we've graded. All right, so you don't have to enter anything not yet graded. Matter of fact, you shouldn't, because it'll throw it off. Okay, so now we have all the keys to now actually do your grade over here, and I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. First, we're going to go to the end, okay, on D at the end, which is D60, and you're going to hit equals sum, open parentheses. Now in this case you could actually just use auto sum because it'll do it for you, but it's good to know how to do it both ways. And now I'm going to use my arrow key. I'm going to go all the way up to the top. I'm holding down Shift, I'm going to go all the way down. Now this is the hard way. You'll learn both ways, making sure I went past, so I'm still holding down the Shift, and now I'm going to hit Enter. Okay. Now I'm going to show you the other way. You could just copy this over, or in this case just do auto sum, and auto sum is smart enough to know all the numbers, the top one, so all you have to do is hit return. Cool. So this shows you of the items that I had placed in this particular MyGrade spreadsheet showed that what you got, or the person got, was 2.19 out of 4 point. So how do you calculate the grade? You say this, D 60 divided by E 60. So not a great grade, right? Which kind of makes sense. Look at this, right? So he failed one. So now what I want you to do is one more step. I want you to come over here and I want you to put MyGrade. Because notice how this is way far down here and you have to scroll down to see it every time. So all you have to do here is hit equals and then scroll down or just type in F60. So now what does that do? Now what this does is it shows you when you're entering this, right? So now let's enter, let's say we did a little makeup work here. This is why I was saying at the beginning of the class that every item has a big impact on your grade, because you can see it here. I get a couple of 50s. I get a couple of zeros though. It's significantly, because I only have these numbers. The total that you're looking at in Blackboard is a running total. So I think this is a great exercise for you to really use Excel to help answer some of the questions, like the what if questions. What if I make up late work? What does that do to my grade? So you can clearly see it really helps, because zeros really hurt your grade. Okay? All right, so that's what you need to do. You need to fill it out all the way to wherever we're at in the class when you do this work. So for face-to-face students, we'll, don't put a grade for items that have not been graded yet. Even if you've submitted them and I haven't graded them, don't put anything in there. Okay? All right, so let's do this. File, save as. We're pretty much done. I'm going to save it on the computer. There's various places I could put it, but I'll just save it on my desktop because I like to do it there. And then it'll ask me for a name. Okay, so I'm going to do MyGrade, my initials. I am going to save it as an Excel spreadsheet. I put it on my desktop, hit save, and then I'm done. So now what you want to do, depending on which class you're in, and you'll have some instruction here, you'll just come in here, just like you did for the practical, right? So in this case, you don't have to write anything. You hit browse my computer. You find it on your, in this case, I put it on my desktop. And let's see where it, right there it is. And then you just open, and then you come down, you hit submit. All right. Again, this is a great assignment for really teaching you, I think, in my experience, things in Excel many people don't know how to do, and if you know how to do them, you'll be well ahead of the crowd. Have a great one. Bye.